Hi, we're back for the last Unshush talk of the year. And today we're going to be joined by Nguyen, who is a sexual empowerment coach. And I can see her now. And we're going to be talking about how to heal sexual shame and the journey to sexual empowerment. So just going to get her on now. Hi, Addison. Hello. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. It's so good to be here.
I love those earrings. Oh, they're so
Thank
nice.
you.
Oh, and I'm really glad to be here and to be connected. This is our last live actually of the year. So yes, you've taken the spot for the last
All
one.
right. Yeah, let's do this
Yeah.
last hurrah for
Goodbye
2020, I
2020.
guess.
But yeah, I thought I've just given you a really short intro there. I didn't know if you want to maybe start by giving yourself an introduction.
Yeah, definitely. So, my name is Nguyen, and my pronouns are she, her. And I am a women's sexual empowerment coach. And so I really help women fall in love with their bodies, with their pleasure, with their sexuality, and to really see it as a source of their power and their radiance, and even to elevate it to a sort of sacred level of seeing it as something that you can use for personal growth and transformation, and love, of course.
Oh,
So, yeah.
amazing. No, it's so obviously we're so grateful to have you here, and it's so beautiful the work that you're doing. And I think it's such an important topic. Yeah, I just love how you explained it there. So yes, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little bit about us. We are a platform that is supporting women who've experienced sexual violence. So yeah, we've had lots of different talks, lots of topics, and I was really interested when I came across your page and just firstly just love the way everything looks. It's great. And yeah, you just got some amazing content on there. And I think for women who might have experienced it's already quite, like you were saying, for women and to own their sexuality is already sometimes a taboo topic. But I feel for women who might have experienced trauma or had any kind of like negative experience within that space, getting to a point of feeling empowered sexually, and it is such a powerful female sexuality is just such a powerful tool, I feel. But yeah, many survivors might not even be at that stage yet. So I thought maybe we could start by just talking a little bit about shame and sexual shame and how you would even go about like healing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a lot. I just
I'm like, oh, okay, let's but the first thing that I want to say is, such deep compassion for anyone who has experienced sexual violence, anyone who has, been through abuse. There's been violation in my history as well, and so I just want to like deeply send like so much compassion and so much love and so much understanding that when we have been in this place where we've been violated, that of course it would create some sort of shame. And also just living in our society, period, sexuality and shame like are wired together in the way that that most of us are taught it, especially if you are like in a pussy having body, and so I think that there's a lot of deep work that happens, right? I think that oftentimes the very first step is to have really, really, really deep compassion and deep love for yourself. And that sounds so, I don't know. I think that sometimes when people say that, it can come off as like, oh yeah, whatever, like you're just saying that. But I cannot emphasize enough how much love and compassion is actually one of the greatest transformative tools in the world, but also for those parts of us. And so I think that oftentimes we war against a part of ourselves that we think are bad or wrong. So if we carry sexual shame, if we carry these histories around sexuality, of violation, we internalize that violence towards ourselves in a lot of ways by telling ourselves there's something wrong with us or that we're broken because we can't engage with sexuality in the way that other people display it or that we want to. And, you know, especially working with trauma, especially working with the really difficult parts of yourself as a survivor, I think the first and foremost thing that's so important is to recognize that the part of you that struggles the most, that carries the most shame, that is hurting the most, is resistant the most, is a part of you that actually needs your love the most. And so I think the path, first and foremost, is not to see that as something to overcome, to fix, to push away, but a part of you to embrace and deeply, deeply love. And through that path, that creates the safety for the parts of you that have experienced that violence or that do carry that shame to feel like, okay, like we're friends. You're going to take care of me. I'm obviously the part of you that really, really, really needs you to take care of me. And when you create that safety, when you create that love and that relationship with that part of you, I always think that that's step one, right? And so
An
this can be
important step. Like, you're so right. It's not about like running away from it, almost like embracing it and giving it that attention. I feel a lot of survivors might just want to like put it to the one side and just but embracing it and accepting it is a good step.
Yeah, and if it feels like that part is difficult, of course, you know, first time someone told me like, love your trauma, love the parts of you that are like wreaking havoc in your life, I was like, are you crazy? Like, there's no way. And so, you know, sometimes it can be really tender to go directly to that place. And so that's why I think periphery self-love is really good. Can you recognize the parts of yourself that you love, you know, that are around that are, you know, the radiant and the great parts of you. And that helps to build that foundation to then, you know, build towards that. Sorry, I'm gonna move my phone.
No, it's so important, like you say, and it's showing love to the parts of you that need it. Would you say, how did you get onto the point of becoming like an empowerment coach? Was it through going through experiences yourself?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. You know, you know, we're on a platform where we talk about these things. So I'll just give a brief overview of my history. I grew up in a house witnessing domestic violence. And so, you know, from like when I was born, my whole body was like in shock and like in a trauma response. So ever since I was a kid. And that sort of led to me then being a teenager and being in high school. And, you know, I think it's very common when you are raised in witnessing abuse that, you know, it's something that then sort of starts to replicate. And so I was in highly emotionally and sometimes physically abusive relationships when I was in high school and in college, experienced violation of my body as well. And, you know, I never enjoyed sex for me. And I knew that there was so much out there. And, you know, as much as I went through, I've simultaneously, and I feel like this often happens with people who have experienced violence, simultaneously so hungry to experience life. So I've always been the type of person that, you know, researched the depths of the internet, was always trying to look for, you know, all of the reasons why and how, and, you know, was desperate, to be honest. I think that that's how a lot of people come into healing, right? Because they feel a great deal of pain. Now, that doesn't have to be the reason why you come into like healing and growth, but I think that it can be this weird dynamic portal that brings you to this. And through those explorations, I discovered my teacher, Layla Martin. And she was the first person I heard talking about sexuality as something sacred, as something healing. And I did also work one-on-one with a trauma resolution coach who's one of my biggest mentors, Rachel Maddox. And so, you know, it did take seeking out professional help, professional training, to heal all of this. And through my coach training, I had to do a ton of work on my own body, my own sexuality, and I literally came out as a different human being. And I thought to myself, like, there's no way that I can't go and teach this to everyone. It's okay.
Somebody's ringing the bell, but I'm not expecting anyone, so I don't think it was for me. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
So yeah, I mean, to go through that and to transform and come on the other side, I was like, there's no way that I can hide this from the rest of the world. It needs to be shared from the rooftops by as many people as possible.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing as well. Obviously, the pain that you were feeling has brought you to this point of now, connecting here and sharing the journey that you've been on. I think it's so powerful as well once you have experienced something and turning it into a light as well for others.
Yeah, 1,000%. And you know, I think that's possible for all people, for sure. And yeah, I would say that the other part of sexual, like, healing shame is this, right? I mean, you don't have to go on the internet and talk about it. That's not like a normal thing to do. I understand that. But to be able to name these experiences in safe spaces, one thing that my teacher Rachel said that really, really stuck with me is that shame happens in isolation, right? When we take what happened to us and we make it personal. And so I can't emphasize the importance of being in community, being around and knowing other people who have had this experience. When we, you know, it's sad to say, but when we normalize and we do see how prevalent these things are, because that is the world that we live in currently, that sense of aloneness can really, you know, make that go deeper. And so to be in community, to be heard, to know that you belong, to know that you're not the only one, that can go very, very far in healing sexual shame. So many people come to my workshops and they're like, holy shit, like, just being able to say these things, or to hear someone else speak an experience that I've like been so afraid to ever say out loud, is healing in itself. So that's why I love this platform you've created.
Yeah, and that is one of the parts of why it was created. You know, feeling in isolation, feeling like you're the only one, and although it is sad to think to normalize it, but the more that we understand we're not alone, and there are other people, and there are other people doing amazing things like you know, there's people out there who have lived through trauma and have got, you know, who want to help to heal on a communal level. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah. And then the third thing that I'll say about healing sexual shame is that you heal a shame response when you experience a similar situation and get a different reaction, right? So I'll just say, in terms of expressing or celebrating sexuality, right? Something that I encourage the people in my programs to do is to be like, oh my God, I just had like a really great orgasm. Or like, oh my God, I finally like touched my body for the first time in a way that feels really beautiful. And to get the reaction that isn't like, oh my God, don't talk about that. Oh my God, what are you doing? Whatever. And to get the new reaction of like, hell yeah, that's amazing. Like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Congratulations, all of that. That getting the new response to an old situation is extremely healing. So, the ways that you can do this in your own body is, you know, to even like start to bring your hands over your body and to actually ask your body, do you want to be touched right now? Right? Again, wiring touch with, oh my God, so much care, so much love, so much consideration, so much consent, that starts to literally rewire emotionally, neurologically in your brain, a new reaction, a new connection to what sexuality is. And
Yeah.
so I think one of the most powerful forces for transformation is not just destruction, but creation. So when you create new experiences, you create new connections, you create
Mm-hmm.
new reactions to these sexual experiences, so powerful.
Definitely. And I like how you explained you can do it to yourself. You know, it doesn't have to, healing doesn't have to be with a partner. You can work on yourself for yourself, right?
Yeah, and I actually do think that that is one of the most important things. And that's why most of my programs that I teach are about creating that sexual relationship with yourself, and about teaching self pleasure as an empowerment tool, because it's really, really hard, especially when the experiences that you've had are in the relational space, to create that trust, to create that safety, to create that groundedness in your body for yourself, also to reclaim your sexuality for yourself, is so empowering, because we live in a world where we are taught that our sexuality is only meant to serve, to be commodified, to be used by everyone else on the planet for their good, to sell freaking cheeseburgers, but that we can't have it just for ourselves, right?
Mm.
And so I think it is very important to create that relationship and to create that internally first with yourself. Then it's, you know, when you come and you haven't set that for yourself and you come into the relational space, you're going to come with all of your like dysregulation or all of your nervousness or all of your projection of wanting someone to save you.
Mm.
And I'll say that, you know, almost always that just doesn't set you up for like the greatest success
Yeah.
possible.
I mean, I'm just thinking about my experiences. So now I am at the moment single. So it's a great time for me to be, you know, reconnecting and almost redefining my relationship, I think, towards sex and sexuality. And I think I kind of had a phase where it was more like I felt sexually liberated, but it was almost like a false sexual liberation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just kind of coming back to the center and just having, you know, not another person, but still enjoying my own body, myself, and trying to redefine what does it mean to me? Like, what is sexual pleasure? What is pleasure? Um, but yeah, I saw you also spoke about something. I've been stalking your page for the last like a week or so, just picking things out. But I know you also mentioned about like that faux sexual liberation, and I feel some survivors might go that way, and I know that I definitely did. It was, you know, this hasn't affected me. I still love sex, like everything is, yeah, sexual, like, and it's great. And it was almost like a false, it was like if you tapped it too hard it would just crack, and that's almost what happens. So yeah,
Mm,
that
yeah.
balance, I guess, and really understanding inside what it means to be sexually liberated.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important because people's trauma responses are going to look different. And
Mm-hmm.
so, when you've experienced something that still lives as a trauma in your body, there's two different reactions, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
hypo reaction, which is like the
Yeah.
shut down reaction, and that is like freezing, not wanting sex. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the hyper reaction, which is
Yeah.
like almost like an elevated fight type of reaction. And that can be like, no, this thing violated me. I'm going to conquer it. I
Yeah.
am going to like go so into it. You can't hold me back, all of
That was
that.
just literally me.
Yeah.
I mean, the platform actually started, so Shushbox started as just a sexually empowered platform. And it was only 6 months ago, probably, that it took a turn, because I'd been doing my own healing work and then realized, wait, wait, I can't go to that part yet because there's all this other stuff to uncover. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I think that that can also, that hyper reaction can also be mixed with, I think that we live in a very binary vision of women's sexuality, where it's either like you're a virginal pure prude, or you're like a wild and crazy slut, right? Like there's no in between. And so I think that when people are seeking sexual liberation, sexual empowerment, especially if you're a woman, um, you can tend to go to one or the other because those are the
Yeah.
only models that we have. And then also, I think it can get really tied in with, you know, for me, the way faux sexual liberation showed up was like, I was using, I was definitely doing the false, like, no, I can sleep with so many people. Like, this is what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do, right? Because, like, this is what guys do in media, which is also, like, not healthy.
Yeah.
But it was also like, I was using it to get love, to get approval, to feel like my relationships were working, to avoid all of the other toxic things in our relationship. So it's almost like I wouldn't say like an escape, but sort of, right? It wasn't fully integrated. And I think that there are a lot of nuances there. Like, it can feel good, but why does it feel good? Does it feel
Yeah.
good because you're actually having intimacy and connection and pleasure?
Yeah.
Does it feel good because it's making you feel wanted and loved?
And this is it. We did a talk not long ago, and it was about intimacy, because intimacy is different. It's, you know, to have sex with intimacy, for me, I was like, what is that? You know, like, to be intimate is to be vulnerable. And yeah, it's like just how you explained, you know, you could be having sex for different reasons, for that approval, to hold on to somebody as well, to
Mm-hmm.
fit into what you think they want you to be.
Yes. Speaking my life story right there.
But I feel, yeah, a lot of people might experience survivors. It can, like you explained, it can go one way or the other. And in my case, it was the way towards sexual liberation, to claim what was violated. But in that moment, still, I do feel, and of course, this is what you cover on the platform, but there is a power in sexual energy. So there is power there, but it's just having the right, tapping into that power, I think, in the right way, in a way that you don't wake up feeling the shame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that this is something that our world really needs a lesson on, right? How do we utilize things that are powerful in a way that isn't exploitative to ourselves and to others,
Yeah.
right? Power and things that are powerful aren't inherently bad. It's just how you channel them and how you use them.
Yeah. And this is obviously can take us, so we've talked a little bit about like how to heal shame, some of the causes of shame, but a big part of the platform and the topics that you cover is obviously that journey to sexual liberation and empowerment. And I thought maybe we could talk about, you explained like is it the 4 Ps of
Yeah.
sexual
Mm-hmm.
empowerment? So maybe we could go on to those.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do have a model that I love to teach, called the 4 Ps of empowered pleasure. And so the first P is pleasure. So seeking out pleasure, building pleasure in your life, and redefining it, like you said, is really, really powerful. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is pleasure in itself is healing. To have experiences where you feel good is rewiring your nervous system. It's feeding you, it's making you feel really alive. And so one of the tools that I teach for this is called my 5% pleasure rule, which is in every single moment of your life, ask yourself, how can I make this experience just 5% more pleasurable? So that could be lighting a candle when you're eating dinner. It can be playing music while you're in the shower, even if it's a 5 minute shower. It can be even checking in with yourself, and you know, if you're working from home, being like, actually, like going to move and to sit outside by this window and to feel the sunlight on my face would make this just 5% more pleasurable. And it is so powerful because aligning yourself towards choosing pleasure is aligning yourself towards choosing yourself. So it's actually like a really deep empowerment piece as well. And to remember that periphery pleasure, you know, not just sexual, but the touch of a soft blanket, laughing with your friends, watching one of your favorite shows, it creates sort of that, it's like your pleasure level goes from like 0 to like, you know, 20, 30. So that
Yeah.
when you do want to go into actual sexual arousal, you're not going from like cold and 0 to like 100, right? Like you're keeping yourself at a simmer. And that is actually a lot of how more yin, feminine, pussy body people, that's usually how their sexual energy is. It's like it takes a lot to get it boiling, but once it's boiling, you can keep going for a long time. So pleasure keeps you at that nice simmer.
That's such a great. I feel like when you were describing some of the points, I was like, "Oh, I've started to do those things. I have a candle, like when I'm having dinner. I'm starting to pay attention to things that make me feel good, not just obviously, like you were saying, not just sexually, but in other areas of life. So when you do get to, it's almost just like that is your lifestyle. Pleasure is your lifestyle.
Period. Yes. Pleasure is a lifestyle, and I think this also speaks to how we can often feel like our sexuality is relegated to this like completely separate world, this completely separate identity, right? Like I have so many clients that are like, I am stressed out. I have my kids, I have my work, I have everything, and like I can't feel turned on. And I'm like, of course you can't. Like you are not a robot. You sexuality is not something you just like turn on as soon as you're in a sexual moment. It's your life. It's your life force. And so it is connected. You know, that's why I'm so passionate about teaching sexuality is something that's holistic. It's integrated in you and everything. So
yeah, that's super powerful. Oh, I like that one.
yeah, so pleasure is the first pillar. The
Yeah.
second pillar is purification. And so purification is more of the healing work that we were talking about, right? It's clearing out old stories, clearing out, and, you know, the powerful work that you're doing, like redefining what does this mean, right? Almost just like throwing out all the garbage that's just like holding you back.
Yeah.
So that can be mentally, emotionally letting yourself feel the feelings that maybe you haven't let yourself feel before. And you can also purify from the body level, right? Because trauma does get stored inside of the body, inside of our tissues. So, you know, doing actual self-pleasure practices, actual embodiment practices to release these stuck and stagnant energies and memories that are inside of you, which can often cause, you know, numbness, hypersensitivity, not being able to feel or connect to, you know, the wealth of pleasure that's available to you. So there's
What
purification.
is sorry, just to jump in.
Yeah.
What is embodiment practice? So I've spoken about it a few times in other talks, but what does that actually mean?
So that means to me, it's like taking things out of the intellectual realm and experiencing them, right? So I can read a book about how to cook a pie. I'm never going to compare to what it feels like to eat that pie.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
embodiment practice. You can
Okay.
read every single one of my posts and hear me talk about how amazing orgasms can be and how pleasure is going to change your life. It is not going to do the most for you until you feel it inside of your body, for you to know it as deep truth. And that is what embodiment does. And
Yeah.
that's why it feeds into the next pillar, which is practice. So you have to actually practice. And I love practice because it really frames sexuality, self love, orgasm as a skill that you can train. And I think that's something that people don't emphasize enough, right? We are actually practicing our shame. We're practicing being disconnected. We're practicing only being in this like go mode of being on our computers, getting work done.
Yeah.
That is whatever you do in repetition is a practice, and you're wiring your body to go as quickly as possible to that skill or that whatever you're practicing. So this is why embodiment, why self-pleasure, why everything that I do is not intellectual. It is, you feel it inside. Because practice is how you start to rewire your body to feel more pleasure. Practice is how you focus and build sensitivity. So like this, like just this, just touching your face like this can be an ecstatically
making me want to do it. Like,
yeah, do it. You know, like we don't realize how easily accessible our pleasure is. It can be just like that. So if you're watching this, just like touch your own leg and really pay attention to it.
Yeah, I've started doing that with like just kissing my arm. So, like,
yes,
I'm washing the sofa and you know my arm's just there, I'll just like kiss my arm, but it's just so nice.
I love it. Yes. I that was one of the first things I remember. The first time I kissed my own body like that, like I just sobbed, you know. Like, so it was both, it was like pleasure, purification, like all of the memories of like, holy wow, I've never given myself this, you know. So
and it makes such a difference. It does actually change how you feel towards yourself. It's nurturing yourself, it's giving yourself that love that you were explaining at the very start, that love and compassion. So yeah, I like embodiment, and yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah, so practice,
Practice.
which is pretty much, you know, me as teacher being like, if you don't actually do it, it's not going to change your life in the same way. And then the fourth one is power, which is to realize that you have that power. You have the power to choose to arrive here and do these practices. You have the power to choose when you engage with your sexuality, who you give it to, how you use it, and then also power in like it is the most potent energy that exists in our world. It's what has birthed everything. So to tap into that power, and this is a very like Taoist tantric view, is like this is actually one of the most highest forms of power that we have inside of us. And so to access that right now, I access my sexuality and sexual energy as power for creation, for you know, for giving it out into the world. And so that's the last pillar. They're not ranked at all, but it's pleasure, purification, practice, and power. And when you have all of those together, you get the pussy power effect.
I'm
you
already
see, like,
feeling it.
that's what happens.
Yeah, no, I really, really like this. And I noticed as well, because I think you just touched on it there, but on your page, you've got some amazing like affirmations as well. So yeah, stop seeing pleasure as the cherry on the top, but instead claim it back as an essential component of living a rich and wildly passionate life.
Oh, I wrote
so
that.
Good. It's so true. It's claiming it back, and I feel like there is that power and that sexual energy, and just tapping into it in a healthy way, in a way that you feel that makes you feel good, is powerful. And creativity, like you said, it's connected to so many different parts. It's creative, the creative aspect as well of life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's just incredible. You know, I just see when people tap into this part of themselves and realize, like, I think we really have the world flipped. That, you know, and this is something that we've been taught, is like, you have to work hard in order to deserve pleasure. Like, pleasure comes last. It's, you know, whatever, but it's like, pleasure's the whole freaking point. Like, why are you working, making money, seeking out relationships, seeing shitty men from Tinder? Like, why would you do any of that if it wasn't in the name of ultimately working towards your pleasure, right? And so that's something that I just taught a sort of like a trauma healing module in one of my programs. And that's something that I really told them. I'm like, trauma healing from bad experiences is not about suffering. It is about the choice to thrive. And it is really ultimately about pleasure and aliveness and goodness.
Yeah, the choice to thrive. You can take that choice. You can make that decision to have pleasure in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be the most difficult decision of your life. It can feel like an impossible decision, but it is a possibility for sure. 1,000%.
And that's what we're aiming for. So obviously, thank you so much for everything we covered there. I know you do your coaching sessions, and yeah, how can people work with you if they're wanting to get onto their journey of sexual empowerment?
Yeah, so I just put up my free 10-minute sensual radiance practice that you can get from the link in my bio. And this is, this is me ultimately creating like the pleasure practice that I would love to have if I only had 10 minutes a day. But it's really covering a lot of these different components. So the focus on it is to touch yourself and feel yourself as if you were your own best lover. So you actually like infuse yourself with love, you touch yourself with love. I teach you how to use deep breath in order to drop you deeper into your body. And it's really like a rich, like feeling your inner radiance and then like feeling it fill up the whole room kind of practice. So,
Yeah, that sounds nice. It's
so yeah.
making me want to. I'm definitely going to check out the one that you just posted. I saw it. I was like, oh, this looks great.
Yeah, so get on that.
Yeah.
And then I do occasionally do like workshop type of classes. I have one called BJ's for Your Pleasure that you can get from my website. And those are usually like a combination of teaching and then giving you a little bit of embodiment practice as well. And that one's really fun because that's how to give empowered blowjobs. And then I also do one-on-one coaching. I am coming out with a Dating from Pleasure course
Wow.
in January, which I'm super excited for.
I thought that is
Um,
definitely needed because the dating, I mean, I've literally not been dating. COVID has just stopped me from, I've just not been dating for so long because often the process is just not pleasurable. So
yeah.
pleasure in that actual dating process, that would be nice.
Yeah, well, pleasure's your lifestyle now, so you gotta
Yes,
bring it into your
true.
dating. If it ain't pleasurable, I'm not doing it. That's
Yes.
And then I do have longer courses. My signature program is a group coaching program called School of Super Pleasure, and that one is about a 16-week 4-month journey. I have one cohort that's open to everybody, and I have another one that's open specifically for women of color to be able to heal together in community in that way. And that covers everything from orgasm, pretty much every tool that I've talked about today. I teach in School of Super Pleasure. So yeah, lots
Amazing.
of work.
Yeah, this school, I'm definitely going to check it out. And obviously, we'll be posting this as well to our page. So, anybody who couldn't join, I'll be linking everything. And yeah, thank you so much. I feel like we covered so many great points there. And yeah, I'm just looking back at the other affirmations that you had. There's just so many good ones. My sexuality is an innocent, healthy, and natural part of life. It's natural.
Yes,
This is our
totally.
natural birthright.
One of my favorite things to tell people that kind of blows their minds is like babies masturbate in utero. So if a
Oh,
baby is, playing and has the pleasure of like finding that part of their body and they realize that obviously it feels really good to touch it, that is how natural seeking out our pleasure is, right? We
yeah.
talk about, I was thinking about this, it's like we talk about Darwin and like natural selection all the time in science. And for like humans are one of the only animals that have the clitoris is the only organ that exists that has no other biological function except for pleasure, and that has been something that is
That
passed
is
down.
huge. That is literally a huge revelation.
Yeah, and so to
Yes,
know that that
pleasure.
is, like
Yeah.
it's obviously important if we were given that, and it's been something that has been passed down over and over again. So
Yeah. That is a great way to end. I feel like that it's pleasure is ours. Like everybody deserves pleasure, and yeah.
yeah, Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was really lovely connecting with you, and I'm going to be keeping an eye out for all the amazing work that you're doing. I love it all so far. So yes, I'm a big fan.
And you're doing so beautifully, like all the things that you're sharing, that you're working through. Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart for also being so brave to share these things. I think people can see just in our conversation how much we've been like laughing and giggling about all this, like how much this connection helps. So thank you for also transmuting this.
Thank you. It means a lot. Yeah, I feel just as you were saying, you know, having that community and having these conversations and realizing you're not alone. You know, people out connecting with energy. And yes, thank you. Thank you. Comments as well.
Thanks,
it's been lovely.
All right.
Have a great day.
Night for you.
It's nearly bedtime for me, but yeah. Have a great day. Bye.